there are a few things that I miss from the pandemic era, like having to get elbowed in the face over like toilet paper and bottled water. But there is one thing that I miss, and that is face mask wearing. Not because I feel like people should wear them, but I miss the good old days when I didn't have to smell other people's coffee breath. I didn't have to witness the atrocity of having to see somebody chew with their mouths open. Anyways, all jokes aside, in today's video, I know what you guys are thinking. This guy is going to talk about scalpers again. Or action figure flippers, if you prefer that term. No, that isn't what we're going to be doing. In today's video, I've already kind of bashed that conversational topic incessantly. And if you guys are interested in watching any of my rants, you guys can do so. I did one where I talked about the predatory practices of action figure stores or some of these smaller shops. I've talked about scalpers. I've talked about even the smaller businesses that are operating from eBay and Amazon that buy in bulk. And then if for any reason the figure becomes a little bit obscure or difficult to find, they, double, triple their prices. I've talked about all that. In today's video, I actually want to kind of call out the community. Look, everybody can do what they want with their own money. They can purchase whatever it is that they want. But I still wanted to bring this up to your guys' attention because I think it's a little bit comical. And honestly, I think in the long run, it is a little bit counterproductive to be doing this type of activity. So what am I referring to? Well, I was like scrolling through eBay. I was working on a new top custom Marvel Legends video. If you guys have, ever watched any of my videos, you guys know that is one of the mainstays on the channel. We do like these, top custom action figures, and we look at like third party or, customizers from around the world. But anyways, that's beyond the point. I was doing research for that video and I ran across a listing for the Marvel Legends retro carded 85th anniversary Venom, which, if I'm not mistaken, was a Walmart exclusive, if I'm remembering correctly. Regardless, it was on sale on eBay for over $50, and I couldn't quite wrap my head around that. There were like multiple different people keeping an eye on this and multiple different sales within like the last, month or so. And I kind of chuckled, not like an outright evil laugh chuckle, like it was more of like a painful chuckle, a painful laugh, because this figure was widely available for the longest time. I remember actually submitting my pre-order because I did order 2 of these. And I remember coming back like maybe later that evening, and then even like couple of days after, like that morning, I was at work, and just out of curiosity, I decided to kind of pop back in and check to see what the stock levels were at. And guess what? This figure was like widely available for like 2 to 3 days. It was just, you could just pop into the Walmart website, pre-order this figure without any problem, without any hitch, and you would be able to buy these for retail at $24 or $25. And I believe if you got 2 of these, which I did, you would get free shipping on these figures. Somehow, some way, there are hundreds of collectors like genuinely wanting these figures. Like I said, you can spend your money however it is that you prefer, but I just think this is a really bad idea. I mean, allowing it to sell at retail and then having to buy it through the third party, I think this is going to send a really bad message to Hasbro. We've seen this before where Hasbro looks at the third party, they realize, hey, there's an opportunity to re-release something or to just hike up prices, and they've done it before. They just recently re-released, for example, the Marvel Legends the Marvel Legends Green Goblin, the retro carded version, and it wasn't going for the original price point, it was going for the new Marvel Legends price, which is ridiculous. Same thing with all of their Black Series figures. They weren't being released at that $19.99 price point, which was the original price for those older body mold and those older figures. They decided to hike up the price to the modern price point, which I believe is like $28, $29. And most of these were being sold at 4-channel websites, which means you had even more of a price hike. Like I'm assuming they were like $28, $29. I don't quite remember. I think I paid about like low 30s, like $33, $34 for this figure, because I also had to pay for shipping. But it just goes to show how ridiculous this whole situation is. Like, you had an opportunity to purchase these at retail, you wait for them to go to the third party, and now you want them at a $50 price point. You don't think that Hasbro is going to take a look at that and potentially, envision raising the prices for these figures. I think it's just, like I said, it's a little comical to see the community going out of the way to purchase a figure for twice the price that it originally was. Same thing with the Red Hulk, the Marvel Legends Red Hulk that was a Target exclusive way back in the day. You had a shot, the first release, I know it was very limited. I know it was still like during or right after the pandemic time, so I completely get it. It was very scarce, it was very limited, and not everybody was going out there shopping for this figure. It seems like only the scalpers and the flippers were able to find these in store. But there was a new restock not too long ago. I want to say like maybe a month ago, I saw a few of these in person at 2 different Targets. I mean, they're widely available, and yet somehow people are still going through eBay and trying to pay the market prices. Again, I just don't understand it. Help me understand. Am I getting lost in translation here? And there will be some outliers. There will be some few collectors that maybe just haven't gone, maybe because of physical conditions, or maybe because of family problems, they haven't been able to go out there, or maybe some people just don't have a Target near them. I mean, but those should be outliers. Those should be very few collectors that actually run into those problems. It shouldn't be hundreds or thousands of collectors trying to purchase these when they have been very readily available for a long period of time. The Marvel Legends retro carded Rhino is another prime example of this exact scenario. I don't remember exactly what that figure was retailing for. I want to say it was $30. I could be off a little bit. It might have been the $40 price point, but I remember this being available at like Big Bad Toy Store for weeks. I mean weeks on end. I remember pre-ordering one really quickly, assuming that it would eventually sell out, and then I was actually able to come back around and actually order another one a few days later just to keep mint on card. But that's just a prime example of what was going on. Like collectors, I don't know if they weren't paying attention. I don't know if they just lost interest in it because it was a re-release. But now I go on eBay and I see this figure consistently selling for almost double what it originally was. I believe now you can find it for around like $70 to $80 depending on the seller. But I just question the logic here, or the thought process behind some of these decisions going down within the community. And I actually remember people clamoring and begging Hasbro to re-release this because the original Build-A-Figure, I think at the time, was going for like almost $200 by itself. I think the entire wave was going for much more. But it was kind of interesting because people were clamoring for it. They finally received it, and then people just were not interested in picking it up for some unknown reason. And now it's multiple different sellers, multiple different people interested in a lot of these figures for almost twice the price point. The retro carded Marvel Legends Carnage Target exclusive is also kind of an example, not a great one, because I do believe the pre-order for this was only open for like a few minutes and then sold out, compared to like the retro carded Venom, which I think was available for multiple different days. This one, the pre-order window was much smaller, so I completely get it. But if you were patient enough, I think this went up for pre-order on 2 different occasions, and then if you weren't able to pick it up through that route, I think it was pretty widely available in person. I went to like 3 different Targets, and mind you, I'm not even somebody that actively hunts for action figures. I would say I maybe go out like legitimately hunting once every couple of weeks, or if you're doing the math, like twice a month. So I don't even actively or ferociously go out looking for figures. I occasionally do it, and then I did it, and I found like maybe, I want to say 5 different retro Carnages spread out amongst like 3 different Targets. I was able to pick up 2, and I still left like another 4 to 5. So again, it just feels like a lot, or a huge percentage of the community is giving their money away to these third-party sellers instead of putting a little bit of effort to try to find some of these figures. The SDCC exclusive stuff from Hasbro was also a perfect example of how impatient collectors can really be. Now, granted, going into the event, there were a lot of collectors, a lot of people that did not know that there were going to be extras sold outside of the convention floor. A lot of us just assumed, and rightfully because they hadn't informed us yet, that a lot of this stuff would only be sold at the convention floor. At least most of it would be exclusive to the actual event. Later on, I think right before the event, or like maybe the same day of the event, Hasbro kind of clarified or sent out an announcement saying like, hey, we're going to make a decent amount of these available offsite, meaning that they were going to have some available throughout like Hasbro Pulse. This was really fascinating because it's not something that Hasbro has usually done. For the most part, you either had to be at the convention floor or you had to be one of like maybe a few thousand collectors to actually get these through their website. But this year they made it clear that there were going to be quite a few available, and that was definitely the case. You were able to get like Death Head was, I think, sold out for like maybe a couple of minutes or a couple of days, and then came back in stock, and then was in stock for days at a time. Same thing with a lot of their Black Series stuff. That stuff was going in and out of stock, but then eventually was in stock for a long period of time as well. But even after Hasbro made their announcement and reassured people that they were going to have enough for at least most collectors, people were still paying like almost $100 for the Death Head like a day after the event, knowing full well that they were still going to have a shot at this particular figure through their website. It just made just no sense to me, and I'm hoping that a lot of these people were able to cancel their orders, because this feels to me like there were a lot of people at the convention and they just bought as many as they possibly could and then were trying to resell them. I get it. I mean, maybe they were trying to recoup for some of their expenses at the convention floor, but at the same time they were taking advantage of other fellow collectors, which felt a little bit weird. I didn't feel comfortable with it, and they did do that. I mean, they took advantage of some collectors that probably jumped the gun or were a little bit too impatient. And look, honestly guys, the list goes on and on. I could do this all day. I could name 1,000 different examples of different Hasbro action figures, and even sometimes DC Multiverse action figures that are somewhat limited, but they're not impossible to find, and people just revert to just buying them through third-party options, through eBay, through Amazon, through people that are selling them maybe in person through like Facebook or OfferUp and so on and so forth. And I think that is really sending a bad message, not only to the action figure flippers or the scalpers, because that's giving them wind, that's giving them a little bit of hope that there are people out there that are willing to pay double, sometimes even triple for an action figure. So you're giving them a little bit more leeway to try to go out there and continue doing this pretty consistently. But not only that, also you're giving the wrong message to Hasbro. You're telling them we're willing to overpay for these figures, we're willing to accept a markup if that's what you guys are willing to do. And I think that's, again, a really bad message to be sending both ways. We've seen incremental price increases from time to time from Hasbro, but we're seeing it way more. The SDCC exclusive Death Head, for example, felt a little bit up there. I don't know if necessarily that would consider, at least in my personal opinion, a deluxe figure, but you had to pay about $40. Is that them saying this is a newer sculpt, quote unquote, which really wasn't? I think it was like a retool of an old body mold, but still, is that them saying we've put all of this effort into this figure? Or is that them saying we know that this is an SDCC exclusive, we know people are going to try to sculpt this, we know that people are willing to pay astronomically high prices for these exclusives? And that's exactly what we got. I mean, again, we don't know the mindset of Hasbro. I mean, they're a really big company that operates on a lot of different levels. But like I said, it could potentially be sending the wrong message. I think a lot of the time we need to be more cautious, pay more attention, be a little bit more patient, and just be smarter with the way that we collect action figures. I think a lot of the time we jump the gun, we try to get something before anybody else, or we try not to miss out on something, and then eventually we end up falling into that trend of just overpaying for figures, sometimes double or triple the price. And look, I've done it myself. I'm kind of guilty of it. There are times when I find figures that I really want in my collection and I have to pay at a toy store, twice what the figure was worth or a little bit more. But I think we have to kind of fall back into the practice of just being a little bit smarter, just being a little bit more weary. There are a lot of great action figure, content creators that just keep you guys up to date on a lot of this stuff. Or there are other avenues, like if you follow some of these bigger OMs on Facebook or Twitter, they'll usually give you guys a heads up on like, hey, this is going up for pre-order, that's going up for pre-order, this will be made available in person, things of that nature. I just think it's a good idea to just be a little bit smarter with it. We definitely don't want to be sending the wrong messages to the wrong people. But again, this is just my personal opinion, my personal take. I just wanted to expand a little bit on something that I've been covering or ranting on about, which is scalping, and a lot of people taking advantage of other fellow collectors. So let me know your thoughts down below. Very curious to see what you guys have to say. It's always important to hear back from the community and just kind of get some feedback. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. Stay safe out there. As always, make sure to enjoy the hobby. That's the most important part of all of this. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one.